What is going on, everybody? This is Marco Liano, and welcome to episode number 2 of Rise Up, Unleashing the Phoenix Within podcast. And today's episode, this is a really exciting one. I just got back from New York. I got back from filming a live event for a client of mine, and it was my first time in New York. Had a great time. Now I'm back here in San Diego, California, and what I want to talk about today is taking risks when it comes to building your creative business. And this topic came to me because this is something that I was talking to a close friend of mine, and we were talking about what it means to take risks, right? And when I'm looking back at my journey over the since March of 2019, when I really started to dive deeper into my journey of becoming a videographer, there are plenty of risks that I took, and some were calculated, some were not so calculated, but the point is I took those risks. And today's episode is really to talk about those risks that I took, to give you an insight of how things have transpired throughout the months that I've been working as a videographer, as a content creator, as a content coach, and really how to take appropriate risk and how to be able to stomach that risk when it is very, very scary to do so. And risk is not necessarily always financial risk. It can be risk of putting yourself out there. It's the risk of speaking your truth. It's the risk of possibly not doing the best work, or the fear of not doing your best work, or maybe a client doesn't like it. There's so many risks that are associated when it comes to a creative endeavor that you will learn to adapt to. My journey has not been a smooth ride, to say the least. There has been a lot of ups, there's been a lot of downs. There's been times where my faith was tested and shaky, but the important thing is knowing that when you do take these risks, that is the moment when your faith gets activated. When you take the risk, if you know you want to be doing something, let's say you want to, for example, start a YouTube channel, start a podcast, to start posting content on your social media, and to start talking about the thing that you are most passionate about, or that you can talk to a friend about for hours on hours on hours. And for me, when it came to talking about doing a podcast, that meant the risk associated with this is my ideas may not be accepted. That might mean that people may not agree with me. That may mean that nobody watches my podcast. That might mean all these other things of what it could possibly mean, with the risk associated of launching a podcast or launching your YouTube videos. And we have so much, at least I did, I had so much fear around actually putting content out there consistently, because if I put content out here and there, I could always blame the fact that I wasn't posting consistently enough, therefore nobody would watch. And what I really had to start thinking about is, well, if I was posting content consistently, if I was sharing my message consistently, if I was putting myself out there consistently, some way, somehow, and it's just a matter of time, people are going to start listening. Because at the end of the day, what is important in today's day and age is your consistency level. Production is easier than ever before. You can literally start recording from an iPhone. You can start recording your podcast. You can record a YouTube video. You can post on various different social media platforms straight from your phone. So therefore, the creative element is no longer the the gateway. There's endless ways to distribute your content out there. Now the challenge that we are facing is the actual creative process, the actual creation, the pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and speaking your truth and creating the content and just taking that risk of putting yourself out there. And when it comes to speaking your truth, like this is a very, very common thing on this theme on this podcast, is for me, I've held my truth in for the longest of time. Like for me, I would talk to friends about these deep conversations, around business, around spirituality, around just psychology, the way the human mind works and emotions. And there's so many different topics that I would talk about on hours on end, from the countless of, from the number of books that I've read, seminars that I've attended. And I knew that I could talk about these things. I've done it before, but now the next level to that is being able to hop in front of a camera and to start speaking on that topic. Because now what comes up is, well, am I credible enough to be able to be speaking on this? Do I know enough? Am I too young to be speaking on this? Am I too this? Am I too that? And you're probably experiencing or have experienced something similar, where you want to be putting something out there, you want to be creating, you want to be sharing something, and you may be feeling that fear of, what is somebody else going to be thinking about me? And if you don't have that fear, amazing. You are blessed, because that can take you a very long ways. However, for certain personality types of people out there, that is a very real thing, where you don't want to be seen. The fear of being seen, because we fear not being perfect. We fear that people are going to point out parts of us that are not perfect. But what I learned to realize is, we all have things that are not perfect about us, where one area we may be very fluent or intelligent, or our zone of genius. Another area we may be lacking, but that doesn't mean we can't be sharing what we know or what that area of genius is in. Like for me, I knew that I can speak very, depth is something that is an inherent nature. That's in my inherent nature of being able to go into that level of depth with somebody and connect on a heart level, and where people feel like they can trust me and I can go to that level. But when it came to doing that online, there were so many stories that came up of whether I would be able to connect with an audience online, because I'm staring at a camera right now, and I'm just speaking into a microphone. There's no level of human connection here, and so it makes it much more difficult to be able to feel like I am connecting with a human being. But when I realized that if I just do this in the mind frame that, one, I'm speaking this for me, I'm speaking this out of expression of what is going on through my mind, what's going on in my body, what's going on in my heart. If I'm speaking from that place, there's going to be somebody out there that will be able to resonate with that and connect with that. So I just realized that I just need to be able to speak on that more consistently. And there's a whole, I hear this time and time again with creatives, people that are wanting to put stuff out there, but they're too afraid, or there's so many stories that are being repeated in their mind that are preventing them from actually starting. So I have a YouTube channel that you can go ahead and follow me on. It's just my name, Marco Liano. I think you can find a link on this somewhere around here on this podcast as well, where I've been posting videos for, I started posting videos for 2 years. Now this is a story that I want to talk about, because I haven't talked about it in depth. I've talked a little bit about it, and I've talked to people closest to me on how my journey started with video. So about 2 years ago, I had the ambition or the dream of starting a YouTube channel, because I was seeing during that time vlogging became a big thing, and vloggers began to gain a lot of traction and began to get a lot of attention. And so that seemed like, oh, I want to be doing that. And this is in the process of me figuring out. I was 21 years old and working at a job I wasn't necessarily too fond of, I wasn't passionate about, and I said, well, that looks like fun. And so I bought a camera and I started recording, and I literally jumped in. I said, I have a goal of creating one video a day for 365 days, right? I just totally put that out there. I'm like, I'm gonna be creating this amount. And so I started creating. I recorded anything and everything on my day, from me going to the gym in the morning to me going to work, me taking a break at work and coming back home, and literally every part of my day I was recording. And then after I finished recording, I would begin the editing process. Now, I was still learning how to edit. I didn't know how to edit. I would be learning on YouTube, and I bought a course to be able to learn how to edit properly. So I would spend 3 to 4 hours learning how to edit, learning how to make things cinematic so people can pay attention to it. And the whole sole reason as to what I was creating is because I wanted to get attention, right? And I ended up going 44 days in a row of me creating videos. From the beginning of the day to the end of the day, it was all about videos. And I remember on like day 44 or 45, I thought to myself, why am I doing this? What is it that I'm really looking to accomplish here? Like, I was getting maybe a few videos, few views here and there. Maybe at the time, my highest viewed video was like maybe 20 views, right? And so I wasn't seeing very much views coming in, or the level of attention that I thought I was going to be getting, and it just didn't happen that way. And so I felt very incongruent as to why I even began creating in the first place. So I decided to take a break. I didn't have a set time as to when I was going to take a break, but when I did take a break, I just stopped recording. My camera began to gather dust, and I just didn't even think about it. I had thought that was the end of me making videos. And fast forward about a year and a half, 2 years later, about a year and a half, I just by chance logged into my YouTube channel because I didn't delete any of my videos. And I noticed that my YouTube channels had still continued to get views. And one of my videos particularly was, 2 of my videos, one of them was got like 5,000, 6,000 views. Another video was going 8,000, and it kept going on and growing far more than any of my other videos. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And I didn't think much of it, right? But last year, around March, I was working for a digital marketing company, and they had laid me off. And right around that time, that's when video came into my life, resurfaced back into my life. And so there was a property management company that was looking to make some videos for their online presence and for their platform, whatever they were doing. And they said, do you still make videos? And this is quite the pivotal point that I think I took that creative risk, knowing that I wasn't in a position. At this point, I sold my camera prior to that, as I was still figuring things out. I had sold my camera, and so I didn't even have a camera. They asked me if I made videos. I said yes. They asked me, do I have a camera? I said, funny enough, I said, no, I don't have a camera. And when I realized that I was willing to do it regardless if I had the equipment or not, that was one of the biggest creative risks that I've taken. Because if you were in my position, or if I was in another position and I said, I don't have the necessary equipment, I don't have the necessary tools, I haven't edited or haven't shot video in such a long time, I'm not qualified to be able to do this. I could have easily said that. very easily and not even accepted the opportunity. But I recognized that when I got laid off from my job, the universe or God, whatever you want to, the higher presence or calling that you believe in, was pushing me towards or guiding me towards video again. And when I realized this, I said, I get to take this opportunity, because prior to this opportunity, I hadn't made any money making videos, and I was making videos for 44 days straight, and I didn't see a single penny or a single return on my time invested into it. And so this property, this company, they asked me how much do I charge, and so this is another part of the creative or the risk when it comes to your creative endeavors, or even if you're a business owner or if you're wanting to pursue something that you're passionate about, and if at any point you're going to be charging for it, and people ask you, how much do you charge? I had no idea how much to charge. I threw out a number, and I had to rationalize how much I was charging, and I ended up getting paid it. And I was like, I remember getting that check, that very first check, and I look at it, and I remember thinking to myself, I'm like, wow, I can get paid to make videos? And that was the biggest paradigm shift for me, realizing that I think this is the road that I'm meant to take right now, because it flowed in so easily and effortlessly that I took it as a sign that this is the next step that I need to take. So I ended up doing that. I got paid for that video, or those videos that I made. They were like 60-second Instagram clips, and a lot of it had how I've started my whole journey has really been like a very impromptu. Like, I'm figuring things out as I go, and this is part of the creative process and the risk, where you're not going to know every step of the road that you're on. The only thing that you can absolutely 100% know is what is the next step that you're going to be taking. So I didn't know where things would lead, where I would be led. But I realized that I need to continue doing video. And so this was around March, around April that I was creating videos. And then in May, that's when things started to, opportunities started to rise up, and people started to come into my life that I hadn't talked to in a while, and they asked me if I could do a video for their event. I said, sure, I can definitely do that. And they're like, okay, do you have a camera? And I'm like, I don't have a camera. And I remember that when I showed up to that day or that event, I showed up with every intention that I'm going to do the very best that I can. It's not going to be perfect, and that's okay. Part of life is understanding that you are going to make mistakes, that what you're creating is not going to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. And when people can see that you're progressing towards something, towards a goal, and you're getting better day by day, that's much more relatable than the person that seems super talented, that came out the gate knowing everything and making like beautiful creative work. That's pretty rare. But the person that's able to start from the very beginning of not having much to start and taking the risk of saying, like, here's something that I've recognized in the video world or people that are creating content, is most people think they need to have the camera, the high-end camera, all the equipment, super high quality, 4K, like a big setup, like having all the equipment before they can start creating. That is the biggest trap that you can fall into. Now here's why. If you had started in the same position that I did 2 years ago, and you're creating content, you had the full setup, and you didn't understand why you were creating, and you bought the most expensive camera, the most expensive equipment, and you realize that this is not something that you want to do, you just invested thousands and thousands of dollars in the equipment that you're creating with, And now what? You're not seeing a return. You're in the hole. And I see a lot of creators, a lot of videographers, content creators that go down this path, and it takes a while for them to recover. Now for me, I've been a very scrappy content creator. That's one thing that I attribute my level of success to, is that I've had the ability to what's called A2SFO. And A2SFO, what that stands for is the ability to figure shit out, right? A2SFO. And this is something that I learned from a coaching community that I've been a part of, and that I'm working with as a client. It's like, recognize that if you can be resourceful with what you have, when you actually have the appropriate equipment and the appropriate team, the appropriate everything else, things are just going to flow so much easier. But it's the process of actually creating, it's the process of getting out there, it's the process of understanding why you're even creating that is going to come first. You have to understand, why is it that you're putting yourself out there? And fundamentally, when you look at your content that you're creating, or the business that you're creating, or the product that you're creating, there are a few things that you need to understand before you start. And the first thing is, why are you doing this? Why is it that you're going to be even starting this endeavor or this journey? And so when it came to me in this space of content creation, in this space of videography, I had to ask myself this question. And the answer that I came up with is that video is a way for me to express myself and to help other people express themselves. And I remember specifically thinking that I want to be able to create content and record myself at this stage in my life at 24 years of age, and to be able to look back on it when I'm 80 years old, 90 years old, when I have my grandkids, when I have my family, and they're looking to me and they're saying, Grandpa, what were you like when you were 20 years old? I know you've built this super successful company. I know you've done so many great things, but how'd you do it? How were you able to accomplish all these great things? And I wanted to be able to look back and say, listen, take a look at this video. This is me when I was 24 years old. This is me when I was 25, 26. Like, here's where I was at. Here's what my mindset was like. Here's what I was able to accomplish. Here's who I've met. And it's a way for my own family to understand the process of breaking generational cycles that I'm overcoming, as I guess, because there's some pressure as a first generation, when I was going to college, a first generation college goer, right, for me to graduate. But that wasn't my calling. That's not what I felt was what I wanted to do. And I didn't want to continue spending money in doing something that I wasn't necessarily too excited about, too fond of, and is not the road that I wanted to take, with the abundant amount of opportunities that we're currently presented with in this day-to-day, in this day, or this age, in this technology age. And I want to be able to look back on it and to share my thoughts, to share how me as a human being, how I'm evolving, how I'm growing, how I'm transforming, and then also how I'm helping other people transform through my message and through my videos and through the content that I'm creating. So that's when I really understood, like, well, this is why I'm creating this. This is why I'm putting content out there. One is for myself and for recollection of who I was at a given period of time, and to watch my own growth and development. Because now I look back at my videos from 2 years ago and I'm like, wow, I'm not the same person I was then. I am very different. I've grown so much, and I still acknowledge and am super compassionate for that level of me that was creating those videos, because it was, that naivety, the naiveness, and that willingness and that ambition to just go and do, just create. Like, that's one thing I recognize, and I'm like very glad that I did, because it taught me that I can do it. I've done it before. And so moving forward, I just understood that I wanted to create content and to share my story, but also to capture other people's story and to make a living off of capturing those moments for people and making it such a beautiful piece of art and a piece of work that it attracts people that want to work with my clients. And so I wanted to be able to capture that for my clients and for myself. That was the first thing that I had to understand, or I got to understand, when it comes to creating videos. Like, why is it that you're doing this? Why is it that you're starting a podcast? Why is it that you're posting on social media? And if you're coming from a place of seeking attention, seeking solely money, seeking validation, you're going to be met with a lot of internal opposition. You're not going to feel aligned. You're going to be feeling burned out. You're going to resent the very thing that you started, because you didn't start it from a place of love. You started it from a place of fear and lack, because you wanted to receive something from somebody, whether it's monetarily, whether it's attention that you wanted to receive, whether it's validation of your existence per se, that you're doing something with your life. But if you're facing the internal challenges of you're creating from a place of lack, from a place of like, I need to get something from somebody, it's not going to last. And if you do build a substantial audience, and this is going to be much harder to separate yourself from this mentality, or from this, like, from the content you created, and you want to make a pivot and a shift, but now your audience has been built off of this inauthentic version of yourself that you're no longer congruent with. And that's why people say, you know, I'm leaving YouTube, or I'm no longer vlogging, or I'm no longer doing this, because that's no longer authentic to themselves. And I didn't want to come from that place. So one, the why of why you're doing what you're doing. And then the number two reason as to, like, when it comes to creating, and before you take that creative risk, is to understand what is the message that you want to relay. Like, are you creating just to create? Are you creating to help humanity? Are you helping, or like, are you wanting to educate people? Are you wanting to entertain people? Like, understand what the foundation of what you're looking to create is going to be built on. At first, when I was creating, I was creating it to entertain and for people to feel distracted from their day-to-day life. And that's why I would do all these super crazy, like, intense cinematic stuff, like cinematic edits, and to be super over the top and really loud and almost obnoxious at times, is because I was looking to entertain. But when that was no longer aligned with myself, I could no longer keep that image up for a sustained period of time. That's why I stopped. But then I understood of the next level that I was looking to, and this is the part that can evolve as you go. The second part is that the intention behind the content I'm creating, one is to educate. Like, I wanted to educate people. Our generation is seeking connection. Our generation is more connected than ever, but we're feeling the most lonely than ever, because we're connecting globally in a matter of seconds, and we have access to technology that allows us to connect. Yet emotionally, we're having a hard time connecting. And I think this is why, as a society, we're having the level of mental health challenges that we're experiencing, the anxiety levels that we're experiencing, is because challenge around connecting at a deep core root and a deep core level, because we're so afraid of getting hurt. And if we open up our hearts, that we're going to be destroyed, we're going to be hurt. And I want to show people that you can open up your heart, you can open up to the world, you can open up to people that you love the most, and share this most authentic version of yourself, and do it by understanding that you don't need validation from anybody else to prove your worth. And the reason I say that is because this is a challenge that I've gone through personally, of creating content. For 2 years, I was totally disconnected from social media, didn't post anything, didn't bother to create, because I was so afraid that it was in one of the lowest periods of my life where just things were not going the way that I wanted to. I wasn't happy. I was, really, I was in the gutter, I was really in the low of the lows, and I felt that I couldn't share that with people because nobody would want to hear that. People only want to hear the success stories. People only want to see when you're winning. Until I realized that most people are going through these very similar challenges. They're going through these blocks, these internal challenges, but most people don't speak about that. Most people are afraid to speak about that because they think that it makes them weak. It makes them vulnerable and exposed. But when I realized that when you fully accept that as part of your experience, that it doesn't define you, that your struggles are there to teach you, that they're there to help you level up, you no longer look externally for validation. You no longer look externally for approval. You no longer look for reasons as to why you need to prove yourself to other people. So when I began this podcast, and this is part of the risk that you need to understand when you're creating content, is come from the place that you're creating for you. It doesn't matter how many views you're gonna get. It doesn't matter how many downloads you're gonna get. It doesn't matter how many likes you're gonna get. When you can come from the fundamental root of I'm creating to share my message. I'm here to help people, elevate their state of mind, to open themselves up emotionally, to be able to create from a state of abundance. If I get to do that first, it doesn't matter how long it will take for my message to spread. At this point, I've learned to create from that state of abundance of it's gonna take however long it's going to take when I'm creating. And I'm completely fine if it takes me 2, 3, 4, 5 years, because I've built a business around being able to capture, I'm making money other ways rather than just my own content. Eventually, I'll be able to make money from this, this content that I'm putting out, from coaching or from products that I release, or there's a whole business that I can build around this and that I will be building as I continue down the road. But right now, it's not about that. It's about actually creating consistently. It's about putting my message out there. It's about sharing my truth. It's about sharing my love, just looking in front of the camera and just being that one person that's watching this, that's listening to this right now, that this is the very thing that they needed to hear. And the fact that I spoke it, that I courageously stepped into that I was able to step into that and share from my heart is going to change that one life. And I just need to live from that state of one person that I'm looking to impact today, a month from now, 3, 5, 6, a year, 2 years from now, that hear this message that is the very thing that they needed to hear. That's why I'm creating this. And that's the foundation that I'm building this content off of. Doing a podcast every week. And this leads me into topic number 3, is understand what your capacity to create is currently at. If you're currently working a job, if you currently have a business that you're building, if you're currently doing other things that may not be your passion, but you eventually want to get into speaking your truth, speaking your message, or if this is something that you want to do, start somewhere. Start posting like day to day, just one little thing that you can keep improving on. If you're going to post a video once a week, once every 2 weeks. Just get the ball rolling and to get in the habit of doing it. Because once you build a habit, you're going to then unconsciously understand how your process to creating is going to go. You begin to get into a flow state. And now that's no longer a thing you have to think about. And now you can think about how to innovate, how to improve, how to bring on guests. Like, I'm going to have my very first guest on my podcast coming up here very soon, because I had the willingness and the courage to ask somebody, hey, would you like to be on my podcast? I would love to have you as a guest. They said yes. So now I'm going to be having a guest. I never thought in my mind that I would be doing this, but because I started creating, that's allowed me to now innovate. It's allowed me to think about ways where I can bring more value to you as the listener, as the person that's watching this, and where now it can improve, like 1% better every single day. This is the Kaizen principle from the Japanese culture of 1%, getting better 1% every single day. Constant and never-ending improvement. Constant and never-ending improvement. It's that principle of doing one thing every single day. And if you compound that over a year, 2, 3, 4 years, you will be astronomically in a higher place than where you had started, because it's step by step that we get ahead, not necessarily in fast spurts, but we build a discipline to prepare us for those fast spurts. So my goal with this podcast is to eventually have, other entrepreneurs, businesses, where they talk about their journey, their story of how they rose up from the depths, from where they transformed themselves, when they evolved into the being of who they are now, that has gotten them the level of success and impact that they've created. And I see myself being on other podcasts, being interviewed, by Lewis Howes, and being interviewed by, Impact Theory by Tom Bilyeu, and being on all these other podcasts. Like, I want to be able to do that because I want to share my message of, and this comes back down to, back to level, the number 2 point that I was making is what your message is. And my message is to just go out there and do what you want to do. Take that risk and create. Do what you want to do. You might not be able to go full time like I was, I had the chance to do, or more like the universe pushed me to do, but I took that leap. I took that risk, and I'm continuing to take those risks. But it's in the finding the steadiness and the calmness in the midst of that chaos that you get to learn as a creative, as a business owner, as even relationships, to be able to stay centered and grounded when emotions can be going all over the place, your thoughts can be going all over the place, fears are trying to persuade you and try to move you in a different direction. But to stay centered and grounded and breathe through the process. And when it's the most difficult, when it's the most challenging moments that you're being tested, you realize that this is your calling to rise up, that this is your calling to step into your power, that this is your calling to open yourself up and share who you truly are. And that's the whole goal for this podcast. For everyone that's listening, is my goal is to help you and to be that beacon of light, the beacon of hope, that I'm the one that's currently going through this and I'm experiencing this, that you can do it too. You can rise up from whatever situation you're currently going through. If you're going through the depths and the darkness right now, like, there's hope on the other side. You can make it out. If you're experiencing, difficulties in your business, in your personal life, in your relationships, you can rise up from that. You can transform yourself and become the version of yourself that is able to work through those challenges courageously. And my hope for you is this podcast, these videos, it gives you that hope, it gives you that courage, it gives you that inspiration to understand that you can do this. You can make it on the other side. You can rise up. You can transform like the phoenix. You can rebirth yourself. And so there's 3 parts of the phoenix transformation that I've related with so well. Is the number 1 stage is you burn the old version of yourself. It's the ashes stage. The 2 is the awakening stage. You awaken to your whole new being. Who you are is not the same person that you were before. It's a completely new person. And you awaken to this new way of being that you learned how to operate in this. And the last stage is the ascension stage. This is where you take flight. This is where you spread your wings and you fly and you go to heights that you've never thought possible before. But because you're willing to go through this transformation, this fire of transformation, self-discovery, you are now living in a much more elevated state of mind, state of being, your emotional state. And you can go out there and impact the world. You can deliver your message. You can help people. And my hope for you is that this podcast is the permission that you need, that you're looking for, and to tell you that you can do it. You can go out there, you can create. You can be that badass entrepreneur, content creator, and make such an impact in this world that you will surprise yourself at the level of impact that you'll be creating. And know that you are capable of doing this. Everyone has the same 24 hours. The people that made it just believed. And so that's my hope for you today, guys. Believe that you can do it. Rise up from the challenges that you may be experiencing and fully step into your power and unleash the phoenix within. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. Go ahead and subscribe to this podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel, follow me on Instagram, and follow this journey as I'm building this and creating this. I'm super excited for the content that's coming to you here soon, for the guests to be coming on as well, and to help you in rising up in your life and unlocking that full potential that you know that is inside of you, and we get to let that out. So thank you so much for watching today's episode, guys. My name is Marco Liano, and I will catch you guys on the next episode. Peace.